So this past weekend, I was watching a show from the Judy Blume universe. The thing is, in this take in Judy Blume, young, unrequited teenage love is expressed through the words of Tyler, the Creator. That show is on Netflix. It's called Forever. It's a whole vibe. Let's get into it. I'm Radheyan Simonpillai. Say it again for Elamin Abdelmahmoud. This is Commotion. Okay, so Forever is about two teens named Justin and Keisha. They haven't seen each other since they were little kids. They're reconnecting in their senior year at high school and become each other's first loves. Take a listen.
You have no idea who I am, do you?
I'm sorry, why am I being punished for not knowing you?
Well, because at one point in your life, I knew that your favorite color was green. You liked helmets, standouts, Daft Punk, and Buzz Lightyear. Yet you don't remember who I am. Keisha.
Keisha Clark. Wow.
So all that adorableness is from the series Forever. It's inspired by Judy Blume's 1975 very controversial novel, and it's actually adapted by Mara Brock Akil of Girlfriends fame. So, it's a Judy Blume story, but you got like SZA and Victoria Monet, and like I said, Tyler, the Creator on this soundtrack. Kathleen Newman-Bremang and David Dennis Jr. have seen it. They're both with me now. Let's get into it. Kathleen, David, welcome back to the show.
Hi, Rad. Thanks for having
us. Thanks for being here. Listen, Kathleen, I'm going to start with you because I know you love this show. I could feel the affection in your presence. Talk to me. What is it about this show that you love so much?
I mean, I love it so much it's unhealthy. I cried in every episode. I'm going to try not to cry talking about it today, but I was just tearing up listening to that clip. So who knows? I love it because, the show feels like it was made specifically for me, like for the 16-year-old version of me who needed to see herself, who longed for stories that reflected Black girlhood and humanity and the complexity of being a Black kid in a white space, which the show does so well through Justin. And for the teenager in me who was just like really messily figuring out her sexuality, which, Keisha is a reflection of. I love teen shows done well. Some of the best television is teen television. I stand by that. I love love. I love horny TV, as I've said on this show many a times. I love explorations of sex that, it can be absolutely everything and maybe nothing at all. Forever is all of those things and more. And, I'm not naive enough to think that representation can save us, but it does matter. And what this show represents, Black kids falling in love and finding themselves, is portrayed in such a caring, thoughtful way that this is where I get emotional, as you fall in love with Keisha and Justin, as a Black person, you can't help but love yourself more. This show loves us, and it finds beauty in Blackness and in the nuances and flaws of youth. And it lets Keisha be complicated and messy and Justin be introspective and vulnerable, two things that Black girls and Black boys don't usually get to be on television. So, this show is just my wildest dreams come true. It is what I wished for when I was a teenager, and I'm so grateful to Mara Brock Akil that Black teens get this show now.
Oh my God. So, we're all now so emotional. And David, I don't know how you're going to follow that up. Tell me, are you on the same wavelength here? What's going on?
This may be sort of old-timey phrase, but retweet, that's kind of how I feel about that. I actually came into this show in a very sort of unique way. Like my fiance was watching it before me, so it was kind of like on in the background. And so when I sat down, there was a scene where Justin's driving, there's a police car behind him, and my eyes are like rolling out of my head. I was like, here we go. Like, this is what we're, and nothing happens, right? And so the show just kind of retrains your brain to expect goodness, right? To expect things to go well. It's like, what if this works out, right? What if everybody can be happy? What if everybody can be kind and sincere? And we just do not get that enough in entertainment in general, especially for Black folks. Double, especially for Black kids, to be able to look at something where they're like, we can have a world where people can just be happy and communicate well, and our parents just love the hell out of us, and there's no villains, there's no terrible people in the show. There's the kid who spread his tape, but that Christian, but he just sort of more so represents the state of the world and what people do to us, but there's just so much space for kindness and for us to be our full selves. And we just do not see that nearly enough. And my hope is that this can be the sort of blueprint of how to show love, cross-generational love, because like I saw the kids and saw like this love that I just kind of did not quite have as a teenager that I was looking for. But then you see the parents and you're like, this is a love that we can aspire to be, to like heal backwards to our young selves and our own children. Like this show made me a better parent. Like, I can't think of any shows that make you better parents. Like there's just so much to love about everything that they did.
There's so much that's so beautiful about everything y'all are saying, and I feel like we gotta step it back and help audiences understand who these characters are. I mean, look, it's about Keisha and Justin, and they're played by Lovey Simone and Michael Cooper Jr. David, can you tell us what do we need to know about them?
Yeah, so they are two high school kids who have had to navigate very white spaces in LA with different systemic things they've had to battle. Justin has neurodivergence, ADHD, and Keisha's had to deal with being a Black girl, expressing herself and trying to be, date and, explore sexuality. And they have had sort of like divergent paths. They are on two other sides of the tracks. Like Keisha has a young single mother and Justin has parents who, are wealthy. Beautifully enough, this is not just a story of like, I'm poor and you're rich and like, how do we do? Like they avoid that also. But they're just two kids just trying to figure themselves out through like loving one another. And I think that's the heart of the story.
Yeah, I think that's what I really love about this show, where it's dealing with that difference in terms of economic class, but that's part of the texture and not really like the story itself. And look, Kathleen, I mean, this is also like it's an adaptation of a 50-year-old book from Judy Blume, which also happens to be one of the most banned and challenged books of the past few decades. Like, what is it about the book that made it so controversial?
Well, so many things. It came out in 1975, and the story is similar, right? It's a YA novel about a young girl falling in love for the first time, losing her virginity, and pretty much right away it was deemed controversial by people who thought it was too sexually explicit for young readers, which is interesting because Judy Blume says that she wrote it after her 14-year-old daughter asked for it. She asked for a story about two nice kids who have sex without either of them having to die. So just like a low-stakes story about the reality that teenagers do have sex. But, parents didn't love that these characters talk about sex in a really frank way, that the sex is described in detail in the book. So much so that in 1978, this quote I'm obsessed with, a mother told the New York Times, "I'd rather have my daughter read pornography than Forever. At least she know that was wrong. Instead of having this book about a nice, normal girl who has sex and then it ends and the book's over." Which is a wild thing to say. But that was the mindset of the parents challenging this book. They didn't like that it talked about birth control candidly. It was getting banned pretty much through the 80s. And then in the 90s and the 2000s, when I grew up in a religious household, I was not allowed to read it. And it's still happening. We are in this resurgence of book banning. And last year, Forever was banned by public schools in Utah. It's still seen as controversial, too sexually explicit. But, I would rather teens read this and know that sex is normal and can be safe and there doesn't have to be dire consequences if you have it. And I think that teens who did read Forever growing up probably approached sex in a way healthier way than teens who didn't.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, that's how the book handled sex, right? But let's talk about how the show handles sex, because that's a big part of the show, the awkwardness of it all, specifically from the perspective of Black teens. Case in point, like there's this exchange between Justin and a close family friend where they're getting real pragmatic about losing their virginity. Have a listen.
I want you to be my first.
We're practically cousins. What are you
Who could become kissing cousins? What? I mean, we've already seen each other naked.
Dude, we were like 4.
Okay, look, I don't want my first experience to be bad.
Okay, but it would be so awkward with us.
Exactly. It would be awkward and we would laugh through it. We would figure it out together. I feel like with you, it would be lovely. At least it would be something that I would remember forever.
I mean, so many feelings coming up in that actually like very casual exchange. David, I mean, talk to me about what you made of that moment.
Like, I think one of the things that is so beautiful about this show is that everybody communicates so well. Like they communicate so well with each other. And I have a teenager, my kid's a teenager in the home, my son is about to be a teenager. And like what I'm learning is that this generation of kids just communicates so much better than we did, and as this kind of leans into it, like there is this like playfulness, there's this casualness, or just like actually, not even that casual, because she's like really trying to put her virginity or like sex into a caring hand, and this understanding of what sex can mean and lose your virginity can mean, and a really sort of beautiful way that they put this in, because like it's something that they could have left out of the main plot of the story, but they put it in because it's just such a refreshing look at how people talk about sex, and it's real, and I love that they did that.
Yeah, I mean, and well, Kathleen, I mean, I'm just gonna let you tap in there. Like, I mean, are you feeling similar ways about this, or?
Yeah, I feel very similar to David. It's just a real, almost mundane interaction between two teenagers, and I think the safety and trust is a big one. And it's something, again, that we don't see often depicted when it comes to teen boys on TV, and especially not Black ones. And so the fact that Justin just, understands consent, he's respectful, he's kind, that's a good enough prerequisite for him being someone's first. The bar is on the floor for teen boys. But what Shannon, his family friend in that clip, says is that she's just desperate for like a good, safe space to lose her virginity. And since she knows that doesn't always happen, she asks a friend who she's not romantically involved with. And I think it was just refreshing to see a Black girl own that she just wanted to have sex, that she was horny. She says that. Period. And it doesn't have to be more complicated than that.
Yeah. And I just want to tap into comment on something you said there. Like, they're so good at communicating. You're right. Except when they hit the block. And that was like the most like frustrating recurring element of the show. They kept blocking each other. And I was just like, felt triggering. And look, there's a lot of themes in the show, and you guys kind of addressed, about how race and class is kind of touching in on this. David, is there something that resonated the most with you out of all the themes that the show's handling?
To me, it was the intentionality of making them look and act like teenagers. Like, I think that so often, like when I watch something like Euphoria, or even like some of the CW shows like All American, it feels like adults like cosplaying as kids and trying to write like how they think kids are. Like this, I felt like they were children when I was watching this, and that was like and it's hard to do. And as Black folks, like Black kids, do not get to become kids. They don't get to be kids in real life, and allowing Black kids to be kids on camera, just even the way the angles were, the way that they allowed Justin to be awkward and weird, and they would stumble over each other's words. They allowed like lame jokes in there to kind of float in the air, and the way that they were just sometimes irrational and infuriating, is what teenagers are. There was a long prom dance sequence there towards the end, and it's just like, when did they rehearse this? And of course they did, because that's what teenagers do. Like, that's what they just like, we got to get our dance together for prom. Like, it was just like so, I think, revolutionary to like really go against what we see in so many of these teen dramas that are just like, here's a 30-year-old written by a 45-year-old, and they're going to like know about like the GDP of the country and all these things that teenagers don't actually care about. And they're just like, no, we're going to have like teenagers like have a 5-minute conversation about Naruto or whatever teenagers talk about, because like we deserve to have that space, and for them to have that space. The intentionality of allowing Black kids to be kids is just something that I just cannot get over about this show.
And I love, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, one of the things that I think that adds to what David is saying is that I loved, for me, how it explored Black excellence, and like, because they were just allowing them to be kids and sometimes fail and sometimes be mediocre at times, even though the parents, who are like, we could have a whole other conversation about Wood Harris and Karen Pittman and the performances that they're giving, but the expectations of Black excellence that came from their parents, which we understand, they still allowed Keisha and Justin to just be kids and fail and be mediocre at times. And I thought that they explored that dichotomy so well in this show.
Yeah. This is more of a conversation than I would have ever expected to have about a show from this genre. But this is why I love you all so much for being here. I could talk to you about this forever. Sorry, you see what I did there? I'm sorry for being quiet.
I see what you did there, Rad.
Okay. But Kathleen, David, thank you so much for being here.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
So that is Kathleen Newman-Bremang, as the Deputy Director of Refinery 29 Unbothered. She's in New York City. David Dennis Jr. is a veteran music journalist and culture critic. He's in Atlanta. You can catch all episodes of Forever right now on Netflix. I'm Radheyan Simonpillai, sitting in for Elamin Abdelmahmoud. This is Commotion. So we're going to switch gears now and talk about another popular show which just wrapped its second season.
Tell me where she is and maybe I let you go.
We could have killed you.
Maybe you should have. Or maybe you should have stayed out of Jackson. Nora. Where's Abby?
That's a scene from last Sunday's season 2 finale of The Last of Us, which I'm sure you know is the big zombie apocalypse drama that's actually shot right here in Canada. You know, if you've been following this season, you know that we got like a lot went down. Like we got all these creepy new villains. Actually, we were shocked by the death of a main character, but also a lot of the drama spilled off screen because the show's star, Bella Ramsey, has been targeted by a lot of hate online. And a lot of that hate has been directed at their non-binary identity. So to help us wade through this mess, Kat Tenbarge is here. And just a heads up, we're going to be wading into some spoiler territory. Kat, welcome back to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, listen, like, I mean, The Last of Us, I mean, this is based on a video game, which, you know, usually means it comes with this, like, passionate built-in fan base. And from the moment Bella Ramsey was cast as Ellie, Bella faced this immediate backlash from just like a certain contingent of fans. So talk to me about why Bella became a target early on and how that venom just intensified over the course of season 2.
Absolutely. So like you said, The Last of Us is based on one of the most popular video game franchises of all time. And from the minute that Bella was cast, and they were still a kid at the time, people online immediately started to point out that Bella didn't match the appearance of the character Ellie in the game perfectly. And initially, this was kind of like the root of where this criticism started to form. But when people would suggest like preferred actresses to play this role, people started to pick up on the fact that it's like, okay, you're interested in someone who's more maybe conventionally attractive. And so this idea that Bella didn't look right became the territory for a lot of bullying. And as the show progressed and as the character of Ellie progressed, the bullying started to intensify and the abuse started to take on a new direction. And there were a few things that happened in the plot of the show with the character of Ellie and also with Bella Ramsey in real life that sort of melded together into this hate campaign. One of those things is that the character of Ellie is a queer woman. She's a lesbian. And in season 2, we see Ellie take on a much bigger role in the narrative and also start to have romantic and sexual relationships with other women. So people were really upset about a queer lesbian main character. And at the same time, you have Bella Ramsey talking more about their non-binary identity, using and preferring they, them pronouns, being queer, being autistic. And so this all sort of melded together into the texture of a hate campaign that involved all these different elements of bigotry.
Right. And look, like, I mean, this criticism you're talking about, like, it's not like you had to go like scouring the dark web to find it, right? Like it was living on the surface. Am I right?
Exactly. As someone who watches The Last of Us but didn't play the video games, I felt like I was being bombarded with this abuse. And on a surface level, a lot of people who were contributing to the campaign tried to make it out like they weren't coming from a place of bigotry. They would say, oh, I just don't like Bella Ramsey's acting, or I don't think that they're the right person for the role. But you can pick up on the undercurrent really easily because they would misgender Bella and they would make comments and jokes and mock sort of how the character's identity and how the actor's identity had shifted and evolved. And so it's very clear what's going on here, but as is typical with these types of campaigns, people like to hide under a cover of plausible deniability. But for someone like me, it's like, I don't want to see this stuff at all, but I can't log on to social media without it immediately being in my face.
You know, I feel like this is just tapping into so many conversations we're having all over the place, but just in this specific example. And look, I want to highlight a specific example of the kind of hate that Bella has been facing online. Have a listen to this scene from the new season.
So we're all having a baby. Holy shit. I'm gonna be a dad.
So that was a scene from the new season. And, you know, it's a really sweet moment in a show that's got like so much horror and misery, right? Because, you know, like in this scene, you have Bella Ramsey's character, Ellie, learning that their new girlfriend, Dina, is pregnant. But it's this tender moment that then became fodder for a lot of the memes and the mockery directed at Bella. So, Kat, like, can you talk about like how this scene in particular is being weaponized against them?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like this scene has just become kind of a joke in itself. And the joke is that people don't take this type of relationship seriously and they don't view it as valid. They don't treat it the same way they would if it were a heterosexual couple. And so it's been used as just a punchline in and of itself. And I find that really harmful, especially to queer viewers and people watching the series who are watching this and thinking of it as a heartwarming moment as it's intended to be, and then coming online and seeing the broader societal reaction being so negative and so like basically just like mocking and making fun of queer identity and queer relationships. And that, as I've written before, just makes queer fans feel unwelcome and feel like they will never truly be accepted or belong within the broader social fabric. And that's one of the reasons why fandom can be so powerful at making people feel like they do belong. And it can also be so powerful in the other direction, really carrying water for this type of bigotry and making people feel like an other.
Well, I mean, and when you talk about fandom, right? I mean, like you actually you reported this on this in your newsletter, Spitfire News, and in your newsletter, you compared this to the Gamergate controversy of 2014. So can you tell, like, what are the parallels you're seeing there?
Yes. So Gamergate in the early 2010s was sort of this movement that similarly operated under this plausible deniability that it was about ethics in gaming journalism. And that in itself has become kind of a meme because what it really was you had predominantly white male gamers who were really upset about growing diversity in both the gaming industry and in the games that they played. And what that manifested as were these harassment campaigns against feminists, against women of color, against people of diverse backgrounds who had made a name for themselves in the industry. And I feel like that is a perfectly clear parallel to what we see happening with Bella Ramsey and The Last of Us in an even bigger way, because this show is so mainstream, it's so popular, and more people are on social media on a daily, regular basis than ever. So it's impossible to escape this type of harassment campaign. Like I said, if you open up Reddit, even if you're not watching The Last of Us, you're going to get these types of posts recommended into your feed. So it's almost like a broader psychological attack against queer people. And just like Gamergate, the source of the campaign is often trivialized and minimized because, oh, it's just people online, oh, it's just a TV show. But that ignores how culturally important and how much of a playbook and a script this becomes for the public at large to talk about these issues, because it's the type of thing that lots of people are engaged in, lots of people are seeing. It's really our common culture. And the goal here is to redefine what that conversation looks like and how people can interact with that common culture.
Well, I mean, like you're saying, like there's a cyclicalness to this story. There's a ubiquity to it. I mean, we see it even when you're looking at movies, like franchise movies like Ghostbusters and Snow White and The Little Mermaid. Like we have this conversation over and over again. And I'm just wondering, like now, like when it comes to The Last of Us, what would you like to see the kind of the creators and the studios behind these shows? What would you like to see them do to protect their stars from this sort of harassment? And, like what are the consequences if it keeps going unchecked?
100%. I think that a lot of times the reaction in these cases is just to try to not address it at all. And that's kind of what we've seen here. Like we've seen people like star Pedro Pascal like make a lot of statements in support of the trans community. And Bella just this week talked about how supportive Pedro has been. But I think at the studio level, it's really important and really significant to say, we do not agree with this. This is not okay. We don't tolerate this type of behavior toward our stars, toward our cast, toward our crew, toward our creatives. And when you don't have that type of a statement come out, or when you don't have studios taking this sort of stance, what it does is it actually emboldens the hate, and it actually makes the bigotry seem more normalized and more acceptable. In recent years, we've actually seen the opposite trajectory, particularly involving, studios behind like superhero franchises and other spaces where a lot of this sort of toxicity has been normalized.
Yeah.
Studios have chosen to take that into account versus pushing back on it, forming focus groups of fans to try to identify.
I gotta interrupt you there because we already got a time. But Kat, Kat Tenbarge, thank you so much for being here and talking to me about this. Kat Tenbarge is an internet culture reporter based in New York. You can follow her work on her newsletter, Spitfire News. I'm Radheyan Simonpillai, sitting in for Elamin Abdelmahmoud. This is Commotion. Thanks for being here.